we were never alone. For most of human history, we were not the only humans on Earth. When we imagine the past, we often picture a lonely species struggling against nature, a single human line marching toward modern civilization. But the truth is far more complex and far more fascinating. For hundreds of thousands of years, multiple human species shared this planet. They hunted the same animals. They used fire. They crafted tools. They adapted to extreme climates. And at times, they even met us. This is the story of the ancient human species we once coexisted with, our cousins in evolution, who walked beside us before vanishing into history. What does human really mean? The word human does not only belong to us. Scientifically, modern humans are known as Homo sapiens, but we are just one branch of a much larger family tree, the genus Homo. Over the last 2 million years, this genus produced many intelligent, tool-using species. Some thrived in icy Europe, others adapted to tropical forests or high mountains. For a long time, the world was shared by several types of humans at once. Neanderthals, the closest relatives. Perhaps the most famous of all ancient humans, the Neanderthals. They lived across Europe and Western Asia from about 400,000 to 40,000 years ago. Neanderthals were not primitive brutes. They were strong, intelligent, and highly adapted to cold climates. They made sophisticated stone tools. They controlled fire. They hunted large animals like mammoths and bison. Evidence suggests they cared for the sick, buried their dead, and they have used symbolic objects. Most importantly, Neanderthals met Homo sapiens, and when they did, they didn't just compete, they interbred. Today, most non-African humans carry Neanderthal DNA, a silent genetic memory of ancient encounters. Neanderthals disappeared around 40,000 years ago, but part of them still lives within us. Denisovans, the hidden humans. For decades, we didn't even know they existed. The Denisovans were discovered not through skeletons, but through DNA extracted from a tiny finger bone found in a Siberian cave. Genetically, they were distinct from both Neanderthals and modern humans. We know very little about how they looked, but we know this: they lived across Asia. They adapted to extreme environments, and they interbred with Homo sapiens. Modern populations in Melanesia and parts of Southeast Asia carry Denisovan DNA, genes that help with altitude adaptation and immune response. The Denisovans remind us that entire human species can exist and disappear, leaving only genetic whispers behind. Homo erectus, the great explorer. Long before modern humans spread across the globe, there was Homo erectus. Emerging nearly 2 million years ago, Homo erectus was the first human species to leave Africa in large numbers. They reached Asia, Indonesia, and possibly parts of Europe. Homo erectus had a larger brain than earlier humans, used advanced tools, and likely mastered fire. They survived for over 1 million years, one of the longest-lasting human species ever. In some regions, Homo erectus may have overlapped with early Homo sapiens, creating potential contact zones between ancient explorers and modern humans. Their success paved the way for everything that followed. Homo heidelbergensis, the bridge species. Between archaic humans and later species stood Homo heidelbergensis. Living around 700,000 to 300,000 years ago, this species is often considered a common ancestor of Neanderthals, Denisovans, and modern humans. They built shelters. They hunted cooperatively. They used finely crafted tools. Homo heidelbergensis shows us how human intelligence was already evolving towards social complexity and planning. They represent a critical chapter, a turning point where human species began to diversify dramatically. Homo florensis, the hobbits. On the Indonesian island of Flores, scientists uncovered something astonishing, a tiny human species standing barely over 1 meter tall. They were named Homo florensis. Despite their small brains, they made stone tools, hunted animals, and survived in isolation for thousands of years. They lived as recently as 50,000 years ago, meaning they may have coexisted with modern humans. Their existence challenges everything we assumed about brain size, intelligence, and survival. Small does not mean simple. Homo naledi, the mystery species. Discovered deep inside a South African cave system, Homo naledi puzzled scientists from the start. They had small brains, but surprisingly modern body features. The remains suggest intentional placement of bodies, possibly an early form of ritual behavior. If confirmed, this would mean symbolic behavior evolved earlier and independently in different human species. Homo naledi lived at the same time as early Homo sapiens, raising the possibility that multiple intelligent human species shared Africa itself. How did we interact? Coexistence does not always mean cooperation. Sometimes there was competition for food, land, and resources. Other times there was tolerance, or even connection. Archaeological evidence and genetics reveal that humans didn't simply replace other species overnight. There were overlaps lasting thousands of years. There were exchanges of genes, knowledge, and survival strategies. Our story is not a story of isolation, but of interaction. Why did they disappear? There is no single answer. Climate change altered environments rapidly. Smaller populations were vulnerable. Competition favored adaptability. Modern humans had advantages: more flexible tools, larger social networks, complex language. Over time, other species declined, merged genetically with us, or vanished entirely. But their disappearance was gradual, not sudden, and it was not inevitable. Their legacy lives on. Though these ancient humans are gone, they are not forgotten. They shaped our evolution. They influenced our biology. They altered our genetics. When you feel cold resistance, strong immunity, or high-altitude endurance, you may be feeling their legacy. We are not purely Homo sapiens. We are a mosaic of ancient humanity. Conclusion: a shared past. The Earth was once a world where many kinds of humans walked under the same sky. They laughed, they struggled, they adapted. They were not failures. They were human, just not us. And understanding them helps us understand ourselves, because our story was never meant to be told alone.